Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, our friend Joe Biden.
Distinguished platform guest, Strom, when I came to the Senate in 1972, you were 70. And I want to tell you, I resent any reference to your hair. You've been an inspiration to me in so many ways. You know, I got to say this to you. Fritz Hollings was the guy who got me elected. He was the chairman of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. And Fritz, when I got elected to the Senate at 29, you never told me there'd be a day, and God willing, my grandfather Finnegan in his grave, looking down from heaven, is not listening now. Who would have thought in 1972, Fritz, that I'd be at a dinner where there was an invocation by a man who invoked the Lord's help to deal with the budget crisis, introduced by Bob Dole, followed by Richard Nixon, and praising Strom Thurmond. Grandpa, forgive me. I have no choice. Ladies and gentlemen, you can say an awful lot about Strom Thurmond. One thing you can't say is that he's shy. Strom Thurmond reminds me of the comment about Winston Churchill when being described. He said, Winston is not shy. Winston would go up to his creator and say he'd very much like to meet his son, about which he'd heard a great deal. I expect that those of you and everyone in here knows Strom, knows that one of his features, one of his endearing qualities, is he's the most relentless son of a gun in the world. There is no possibility of telling Strom Thurmond no, and there is no possibility of doing anything other than eventually doing what Strom Thurmond wants. Strom Thurmond is in every respect a son of the South. And as it was said of Robert E. Lee, Strom is an opponent without hate, a friend without treachery, a statesman without pretense, a soldier without cruelty, and a neighbor without hypocrisy. That's been the story of my relationship with Strom. We're occasionally referred to as the odd couple. Little did anyone think, including me, that when I had an opportunity to be a ranking member with Strom, that I would grow to have such genuine and deep affection for him. So when Strom Thurmond gave his word, I quickly learned that it meant exactly that, his word. Never one single solitary time in the close to 21 years that I've worked with Strom Thurmond has he done anything other than keep the spirit and letter of his word. Strom is also a fellow who makes some promises that sometimes are tough politically to keep, but he keeps them. You mentioned Bob, President Reagan. A true story, I'll never forget going down with Strom Thurmond after we agreed on a crime bill, the Thurmond-Biden crime bill back in the mid-'80s. And Ed Meese did not like it particularly well, but Strom indicated and I indicated that we would hold off, the liberals on my case and the conservatives in his case, and we'd stick with that bill. We went down to try to talk the president into signing it if it passed. And we sat there, and at the appointed hour, as we looked like as Strom was beginning to convince President Nixon, because it had a provision in there about a thing called the drug czar, Ed Meese looked across at the table to President Reagan and said, Mr. President, and pointed to his watch. And the president began to get up and thank us, and as he got up, he reached, I don't get to do this to presidents, he reached and held his arm down, President Nixon, and kept him in his seat. Literally held, I never saw anybody force a president to sit down like that. It's the God's truth. Paul, he looked at the president and he said, Mr. President, very seriously, no humor. Mr. President, when you get as old as I am, you'll have to understand that sometimes you just have to compromise. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know anyone else in American politics that could literally hold a president in his chair and lecture him when the president himself was 76 years old about when he gets as old as I am. Ladies and gentlemen, James Pyle Smith described General Stonewall Jackson, the great Confederate general, when he said, and it could easily be a description of Strom Thurmond, he was an avalanche from an unexpected quarter, a thunderbolt from the sky, and yet he was in character and will more like a stone wall than any man that I have ever met. That seems to me to sum up Strom Thurmond. He is like a thunderbolt from the sky. He is a man who lives by his principles and a man who has gotten all of us to understand what they are. And Strom, we Irish have about 6 million toasts, but one of the toasts on birthday goes like this: may you look back in the past with as much pleasure as you look forward to the future. And I know of no man with whom I've served or a woman who has as star-studded a past and is promising a future and looks to the future all the time as you do. It's an honor to be asked to be here, Strom. Thank you for allowing me to participate.